Hello, so I'm doing a video here, but I'm not actually going to be reviewing any books or any movies today. Instead, I'm just going to be turning into the camera and talking about some thoughts or feelings that I have. I believe the kids call this a vlog. So this is a vlog, this is... It depends how you count it, because arguably everything I do is a vlog, because essentially I just turn on the camera and ramble. But until now, I've been limiting myself to book and movie vlogs, and I'm experimenting now with opening up to kind of more regular update vlogs like this one. Why am I doing this? Yeah, so that's going to be the subject of the first video, is why am I doing this? And then maybe in the subsequent videos I'll get into things that are not me vlogging about why I'm vlogging. So I've been doing these video reviews on YouTube now. Well, actually, it depends how you count it. According to YouTube, my oldest video review is now 9 months. Actually, I've been doing it for slightly over a year, but that's because for the first kind of 6 months I was doing it, I had the videos as unlisted. They weren't private, like everyone could watch them if they had the link, but they weren't kind of publicly searchable through YouTube. You had to kind of follow the link off of my blog. And I did that at first because I wasn't quite sure how public I wanted to go with these. And then after doing them for kind of about 6 months, I thought, you know what, nuts to it. I'm just going to make these public, and if people like them, they like them, and if they don't like them, they don't like them. I'll talk a little bit more about this later maybe, but I think this kind of goes along with the theory of you have to take some chances in life. You can't just kind of sit at home and take no chances, and so making these available on YouTube is kind of, you're opening yourself up a bit because all these random people might be watching it, but you have to take some chances in life maybe. Anyways, if you've been watching the videos, you know they're pretty terrible, and I don't, no self-modesty going on here. I know they're terrible. I just turn on the video and I ramble, and there's no editing. And a lot of the times I don't have anything intelligent to say. Some of the time I do have something intelligent to say, but it's kind of so incoherent it's difficult to get at. And then maybe every once in a while I get a good video in. I don't know. That's not for me to judge. But most of the time they're terrible. Why am I doing this? It started off as an experiment. I've been blogging now for over a decade. It's evolved into kind of mainly book and movie reviews. And I noticed people were doing a lot of this on YouTube. Now, if you watch YouTube, the quality runs the gamut. The videos that kind of tend to pop up on the recommended list are very professionally done, scripted, edited. But if you kind of go into the dregs of YouTube, like kind of search near the bottom of the recommended list, there are a lot of people who are doing exactly this. They're just turning on the camera and rambling. And I thought, I could do that. Just give it a try, see how it goes. I am well aware of the fact that most of the time it doesn't go well. But I am optimistic that if I keep doing it, I will improve at it. We will see how this goes. Obviously, in order to really do well at this, you'd have to kind of script it ahead of time and maybe do some editing. I'm not ready to commit to that yet. I'm doing this YouTube thing as a hobby. I have a number of other considerations on my time between kind of my work and my studies and kind of professional development. So I can't really sink hours into these YouTubes. What I'm hoping though is that over practice I'll develop my verbal fluency. So here's my idea, and I'm not sure this is realistic or not, but there are some people, I'm thinking of people like, I don't know, Christopher Hitchens or Jordan Peterson, who don't really have to script out and edit what they say. Like, you get them in a room and you give them a microphone and you get them talking, and whatever they say is going to be interesting. Just because they have kind of highly developed speakers. Now, those are exceptional cases. I'm not going to get to that level, but I have aspirations to kind of get better than I am. The idea of being able to engage an audience more without a script. Now, that's partly just an excuse for being lazy, like well, I don't want to be too hard on myself. I do work hard in a number of other areas in my life. I'm just choosing not to put a lot of time into YouTube. Yeah, call it lazy. Let's call it lazy. Partly an excuse for me being lazy, but maybe there's some validity to this, that the more you keep practicing talking in front of a camera, the better you develop your verbal fluency. Having said that, I have some doubts about this, because I think you could equally make the other case. Speaking of Jordan Peterson, I was watching one of his videos on YouTube where he was saying that kind of our peer groups or the people around us keep us in check. Like, at any given minute, any of us are in danger of kind of going off the rails into like crazy town. But our peer groups keep us in check with what's kind of socially acceptable behavior. I think a danger maybe, if you just, with YouTube, when there's nobody in the room, you just have a camera and you turn the camera on and you ramble at it for 30 minutes, is that nobody is keeping you in check and saying, wait, stop, you're being boring, you're not making sense. If you think about it, it's really a very artificial environment. In real life, I could never talk at somebody for 30 minutes about a book or movie I've seen. This YouTube is kind of a very artificial environment. It allows me the freedom to do that, but then is that good for me, or is that just kind of, do I just develop into rambling and more incoherence? I don't know, but I'm going to give the experiment a try. So, I don't know, check back in 2, 3, 5, 10 years to see if I'm still doing this, if I've become more coherent or less coherent as a result of kind of having no filter and putting on the camera. But along those lines, I've been using this channel to review books and movies that I watch. I don't watch a lot of movies these days. I see a handful of them a year, and I'm a terribly slow reader, which means, sometimes I'll go for like a month or something without reviewing anything. And I thought, if I'm going to give this thing a go at kind of working on my verbal fluency, maybe I'll start doing weekly videos where I turn on the camera and talk about some subject and just see where it goes, like experiment with how coherent I can be, or whether I make sense, or whether I say something interesting. Today's video is all about the reason for the video, but maybe in subsequent weeks I'll get into other topics. I'm going to play it conservative. In my youth, I've made some mistakes with oversharing on social media. So I don't want to talk about personal life, because you can get in trouble for that, and it's nobody's business really. I don't want to talk about work, because you can definitely get in trouble for that. Don't want to talk about politics too much, because you can really get in trouble for that. So I don't know, maybe I'll just talk about books I'm reading, or books I'd like to read, or I don't know. Something. We'll see. Yeah, a couple things. I've made some notes here to kind of keep myself reasonably on task here. A couple other reasons for doing this, I guess, is just a way to kind of keep in touch better. I'm teaching English in Vietnam right now. So I'm kind of halfway around the world from my family and kind of all my old friends. Over the years, I've gotten less and less in touch with people. Making weekly videos, I guess, would be an opportunity to kind of inject myself more, and I don't know. That assumes, of course, that people watch them, but it's an opportunity putting myself out there. Yeah. It's also, yeah, going through the notes here of things I jotted down. One of the other reasons I have for doing this, kind of with the YouTube videos and with the blog, you're just kind of turning the camera on, or you're writing stuff that's interesting to you and is not necessarily interesting to other people. It's terribly self-indulgent in that way. The way I justify it to myself is I say, okay, this is going to be my outlet for being self-indulgent. And then, this way, if I have an outlet for being self-indulgent on social media, hopefully I'll be less self-indulgent in real life. So you know, like that annoying friend that you have who always kind of steers the conversation back to themselves or their interests? My goal is not to be that person. When I go out with a beer with somebody, be somebody who's willing to talk about their interests. And I figure I could do that easier if I have an outlet where I allow myself to be self-indulgent, so that I don't have to be so self-indulgent in real life. I'm not sure how well this is working, to be honest. Sometimes I worry that self-indulgence isn't a thing that gets an outlet, it's something that gets fed. So like if I feed my self-indulgence on these platforms, then I just get more obsessed with my own particular interests and I become more self-indulgent in real life. I guess the jury is still out on whether or not this is an outlet or whether this is making the problem worse. But that's my goal, is to give myself an outlet to be self-indulgent on social media, and then in real life kind of not bore people by talking about whatever book I happen to be reading at the moment. I still have an urge to bore people with talking about what books I'm reading at the moment, but I'm trying to cut down on it this way. Okay. Stuff I want to experiment with doing on this YouTube channel in the future. So right now, it's all terribly terrible, really. I just turn on the video and I ramble. And I'm going to keep doing that. But I might experiment with doing more scripted material, not as a substitute for that, because I'm going to keep rambling, but maybe as an addition and as a supplementary thing. Something I was thinking about is maybe once a month or once every 2 months, try and actually do a review where I script out what I'm going to say ahead of time, so I'm not just rambling for 30 minutes. I don't think I have time to do that with every review. So most reviews will still be ramblings, but maybe experiment with once a month or once every 2 months scripting out something. I've also been thinking about trying to make some ESL content. I don't know. There's a lot of ESL content already on the web already, but I find this all the time, actually. My students kind of ask me, where can I go to practice my listening? And I never really know. Now, part of the reason is you shouldn't be asking your teacher where to get supplementary study material, because your teacher is often not an expert, especially if they're a native speaker. They have some expertise in classroom management if they're a certified teacher, or if they have experience, but they don't necessarily have an expertise in finding material around the web, because if they're a native speaker, they've never had to do that for their own studies. Sorry, I'm going off on a little tangent here about the ESL world. There's going to be a lot of that. ESL is my day job, teaching English as a second language. So you can expect a lot of those tangents in these vlogs. But anyways, I never really know where to direct my students. I thought maybe I could create some material online that would be useful for ESL students. Also, I was thinking about maybe trying to create a video series kind of explaining grammar points, which might be useful both for teachers and for students. And I think maybe it would also be useful for me, because one of the challenges of studying grammar when you're an ESL teacher is, you know, like I've got all these books on grammar, like this one here, but I never remember it. Like, you know, you read it, but your eyes just glaze over. So if I had some sort of project where I was trying to synthesize information from several books into kind of one kind of educational video about a certain grammar point, that might be something that would be good for me in terms of me learning more about grammar and remembering it, and useful for someone else, although maybe that's a stretch. I don't know. Those are just a couple ideas I've got floating around in my head, which I may experiment with within the next few months, or maybe I'm just talking about all these ideas that I'll never get around to. Time will tell, I guess. So I'm gonna finish this for today. I guess the takeaway from today is I'm going to experiment with doing weekly vlogs on this channel in addition to the book reviews and movie reviews. We'll see how it goes.